Hello, hello, hello. Come on in, come on in, come on in. I am about an hour late. I am so sorry. Happy Tax Tip Tuesday. Come on in, come on in, come on in. I had to make sure my grandbaby was good and took her home. So I'm a little late. So if you catch this on the replay, say replay, hashtag replay, replay, replay. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Happy Tax Tip Tuesday. I'll get started in one moment. You may hear my puppies wrestling and barking in the back. They just busybodies. So, hello, hello. Introduce yourself so I can shout you out and say where you're from and your business. I'll get started in one moment. Happy Tax Tip Tuesday. Hello, hello, hello. Work hard, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I am Tracy L. Tate. I am the CEO of TLJ Professional Services, where we are about all things financial. I bring to you over 35 years experience in bookkeeping, accounting, as well as tax preparation and business coaching. I have a master's in business and accounting as well as public administration. So this Tax Tip Tuesday is the continuation of overlooked deduction. Okay, so week one, I went through all 10. Okay. Last week, I went through home office deduction. So today, I'm going to talk about startup expenses that people seem to miss. Okay. So a lot of people seem to think that they can't deduct expenses until they filed or formed their business. That's not the case. Okay. Part of creating your business, you incur expenses, whether it's research, marketing, legal fees, formation fees, right? Your filing fees to get registered in your state. If you pay a professional or you do continuing education, sometimes people join or start their business by going to a conference, things like that. All of those are considered your startup expenses, okay? And you could depreciate those, or actually it's called amortization, okay? But they are deductible. Okay. So when you start actually incurring or coming out of pocket for a business that you're looking to start, that's when you should start tracking your expenses. Okay. You might not be making money yet. A business is not defined by the money that's made. Okay. It's behind the product or service that you produce or provide. Okay. So with that, you have startup expenses. Everybody do. I don't care if you're service-based, product-based, you definitely have come out of pocket in order to get started in your business. A lot of times people use their W-2 income to fund their business. Guilty, okay? I definitely use my W-2 income to kind of fuel my business, but it also fueled my nonprofit, okay? And now, because I'm still W-2, but with TLJ Professional Services, my business, I still fund my nonprofit, right? And fuel my nonprofit. But when you are starting a business, you have startup expenses. So let's break them down. Depending on the type of business you are. Let's say that you are a restaurant, okay? You may get the idea of your menu by going different places to sample. Those are considered startup expenses. You could deduct that. It's research, right? Research of the product that you want to provide as a restaurant, okay? The food items, the menu items. So I have a client even now, they're not considered startup expenses, but they are expenses. He'll go to different locations, different restaurants to kind of sample taste that they offer on their menu to see if it's something that he want to um, offer in his business, right? They specialize in chicken. So they have different flavored chicken. So he looks for different flavors to offer in his chicken that they serve. So that's a business expense. Okay. When he, well, when any business is getting started, you definitely have those fees to file, no doubt. To file in your state, there's filing fees. If you pay somebody professionally to do it for you, then those fees are a part of your startup costs. Let's say for Turo, okay? Besides just registering your business, you might have to go and get a vehicle, right? In your business. That could be part of your startup assets or startup costs, right? The type of cars, maybe you start off with leasing a car or something like that. Those can be considered startup costs. Hi, introduce yourself. Hey, hey, hey. So think about it from an aspect of, I'm about to start a business. Let's say that you're a business owner that's researching what business to start. Whatever expense you come out of pocket for, it's a write-off as part of your startup expenses, okay? So I know that there's a lot of travel insurance or insurance businesses out there that flourished in the pandemic, right? You had to, hey, Miss Elisa, how are you, love? You had to incur like a AMA for insurance. It's called an AMA, but you had to pay for your licensing, right? You had to pay to become a member of that insurance group. So with WFG, that's how I started with my insurance, is with WFG. Well, it cost me $100 to be an associate, right? To get registered with them, okay? That was part of my startup costs. So before I even started making money, before I got licensed, all of that stuff, I had to pay that $100 to even get an associate number. Okay, that was part of my startup cost. Okay, the continuing education I did was part of my startup cost. So look at it as startup costs is everything, all the expenses you incur in order to get your business started. So whether it's a year's worth of research, whether it is, like I said, my AMA, my license, right, the continuing education for it, all of those things, those are part of my startup cost. So you want to look at it from a standpoint of, I can't do this business unless I do this. Okay. So it's the this piece that you write off as startup costs. Okay. Now, startup costs are not 100% deductible in the year you start. Okay. There is considered an amortization. You can amortize up to 50%, but you cannot amortize 100% of startup costs. They also call it organizational costs, right? So be mindful of that. You might not want to put everything as a startup cost if you want to capture the expenses in that year that you started. Okay. So keep that in mind. Your legal fees, advertising, all of those things could be startup costs. However, you can also treat those particular expenses as a deductible expense in that year, where you deduct 100% of the expense. Okay. So your deciding factor is your business. So one thing that I always say is there's, I have a training tomorrow, D. Come, but let's see what time. Let's connect offline and see what time. You want to keep in mind that when you deduct anything, when you're laying out your expenses that you're going to have for your startup costs or as your expenses that you want to write off, what's best for your business? So one thing that I always talk about is there's no two businesses alike. Okay. That's my philosophy and that's my motto. There's no two businesses alike. We may be in the same industry. We might offer the same services. We might even offer the same products. But what makes my business unique is me. Okay. You're not me and I'm not you. That's what makes me different and my company different from any other bookkeeping or accounting firm out there. Okay. So with that being said, your startup expenses is part of you. So it could be your own self-development, right? So the example of the life insurance agent, you have to get your licensing and stuff like that. So I could treat that as a startup cost. That $100, I definitely treat it as a startup cost, right? But everything else I expense because by the time I actually incurred my licensing fee, the year had rolled over. Okay. So I did not keep it as a startup cost in that particular year because I expensed it the next year. So it depends on what's needed for your business. So one thing I was talking about with a potential client earlier today is because they have a rental real estate property, but they're looking to see how they can expand their wealth, right? So one thing that I had talked about with them was begin with the end in mind. You guys probably hear me say that all the time. Begin with the end in mind. There is no one size fit all, right? So what is it that they want to do? How large do they want to expand the business aspect? Because they do have W-2 income. But one thing I reminded them is as long as you work for somebody else, they have the power to say when you're employed or not. So don't put all your eggs in that basket, right? Prepare for your own basket and your own legacy and your own opportunities and wealth, okay? Leverage what they make from their W-2 income to build their business. So part of that is, in rental real estate, for example, you might have startup costs in that, right? It could be going to travel to different places to look for property, research, right? Especially if it's your first one. But with them, I was saying, because you don't make a whole lot of money per unit in real estate, you might have to get several locations, right, for it to accumulate. So with that, I was letting them explore the idea of consulting, right? How else can you bring revenues to this business so you can write off more or divert more of your income to pre-tax revenues, okay? Or income, taxable income. So that was what's unique for their business, right? But the next real estate person, that might not be unique for them. That might not, and they may not incur startup costs for them. So with this particular company, because they're just getting started, they can actually write off the fee that they pay me to help them get set up, right? As part of their startup costs. So every business is unique when it comes to even startup costs, okay? There is no one size fit all. So let me reintroduce myself. And I want to invite you to my challenge. It starts on Monday. So it's Monday through Friday. Ooh, wait a minute. I done put all kinds of stuff in here that I did not want to put in this chat. So I'm glad I didn't hit send. But I want to invite you to my challenge. It's the Business Finance Mastery Challenge. I'm going to drop the link. Register. It is free. So take advantage of learning more how to master your finances in your business. So register today. We start on Monday. Okay. But so to recap, we're talking about startup expenses. I'm Tracy L. Tate. I am the CEO of TLJ Professional Services, where we are about all things financial, offering bookkeeping, accounting, tax preparation, and business coaching services. So with that, we help small businesses take their business to the next level through their financial picture. Okay. So with all of that being said, we're talking about startup costs. Any cost that you incur to get your business going is considered a startup expense that you can write off and amortize over several years. Okay. It's not 100% deductible. So some people choose to not have startup expenses and just expense everything. That's their prerogative, right? There is no law to say, oh, you have to deduct this as a startup cost, okay? But you do incur startup expenses. So I want to really recognize that for people that incur costs before they actually get started in their business. So depending on the industry and the line of business that you're in, you may have to do some research and come out of pocket for that. It may require travel, like if you're investing in property or you're a real estate investor, right? It may require traveling to other states. All of those are considered your startup costs. Definitely your filing fees to become an LLC or an S Corp or C Corp, any registered business in your state costs you money. Even as a DBA, if you're sole prop and you choose to have a DBA, that DBA even costs. My internet is choppy, so I apologize for that. It's choppy for me, so I know it's choppy for you. Um, so look at your startup costs as any monies that you pay out of pocket prior to starting your business or to get your business started. Okay. Once you're started, it's no longer considered a startup cost. It is actually money out of pocket where you're going to either expense it or depreciate it, which is an asset. Okay. So you incur these costs to get your business started, or to research, or legal fees to form your business, or advertising, whatever it may be to get your business started. You could write that off as startup expenses. Don't even have to have formed your business yet. Okay. You could be doing the research to start a business. And let's say the business never get off the ground. Those expenses are still deductible. Okay. You just never take the business to registration, but those expenses to get started is considered a startup expense that you can write off on the Schedule C, unless you actually formed your business as a LLC, S Corp, C Corp. Then it's not considered a business. You register as a DBA, but haven't performed services or products yet. Those are still considered startup costs. So today is Tax Tip Tuesday. Happy Tax Tip Tuesday. And I'm going over and I'm chronologizing the deductions that most small businesses miss at tax time. Okay. So I went over all 10, week one. Last week, I went over home office deductions. Today, I was talking about startup expenses. Next week, I'll be talking about the business due for car of your vehicle, because people get that mixed up as well. So join me next week for Tax Tip Tuesday. I was a little late today. I'm normally on between 5:30 and 6. I had to drop my grandbaby off, so I'm a little behind, but that's okay because you still got this. So if you kept this on the replay, hashtag replay. Happy Tax Tip Tuesday. And I hope you get a clear understanding of what startup expenses are and what you could deduct. You do not have to wait until your business is formed to deduct these expenses. You could deduct them even before you form your business, okay? And you are incurring expenses before you form your business. So those are expenses you could write off, although your business has not started yet. So don't get that confused. This is Tracy L. Tate. It's been my honor and pleasure to bring you Tax Tip Tuesday, okay? Startup expenses, and I will see you next week. You have a fabulous rest of the week. Be blessed.